now I'm pleased to present our next speaker and the board chair of the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools, Rick Cruz. In addition to being the National Alliance Board's chairs, Rick recently completed an 8-year tenure as a board member and chair of the DC Public Charter School Board. That independent board oversees the 66 nonprofit organizations and their 126 schools, which educate nearly half the public school students in the District of Columbia. Rick is a frequent panelist and speaker on public education and reform efforts. In his spare time, Rick is the president and CEO of Arabella Advisors, a mission-driven company dedicated to helping change makers and philanthropists create a better world. In his role at Arabella, Rick leads the executive team and guides strategy and operations with the goal of growing the organization's reach and social impact. That is quite a resume. Folks, please join me in welcoming to the stage Mr. Rick Cruz.
Good morning. It is such a pleasure to be here with you today. This is my 7th time at the conference, but my first time here as chair of the board, having taken on that role just a few months ago. And I do that, as Chris said, having served as a charter school CEO, as the chair of a school authorizer, as the product of public schools in the Bronx, though I never had a teacher as exciting as Chris, and as a dad who's raising 2 Latino children in DC. And if you're keeping count, they're 2 of the 14 million Latinos that make up 28% of students in the US. And as you all know, Latinos are a huge and growing population in our charter schools. Speaking of being a dad, yes. Speaking of being a dad, hat tip to all the dads who traveled in on Father's Day yesterday. It's in my role as a dad, as a parent, that I understand in my very DNA and appreciate how important it is that all families have excellent public school options. And let's be real, it's often our black and brown families who don't have such access. And while it can feel like the odds are quite literally stacked against our students, poverty, inequitable resources, mental health challenges, that little thing called the pandemic that we may just be beyond, visiting our public charter schools and being with all of you gives me hope. It makes me want to work harder for you and the families that you all serve. And while there's so much more for us to do, there's reason to be optimistic. Just a few weeks ago, Stanford's Center for Research on Educational Outcomes, CREDO, released a major report on the academic successes being realized in charter schools. And if you've not had a chance to see the report yet, let me share a headline. Charter schools are doing well by our students and our families. We're outperforming district counterparts each year on average 16 days of additional learning in reading and 6 additional days in math. And that deserves a huge round of applause. Not only is that a big deal, but CREDO has been, let's say, a critical friend to our collective work over the years. In their first national report on charter schools, measuring outcomes from 2001 to 2008, they found that charters did not perform as well as district schools. Their second study back in 2013 famously found that while there were significant gains for Black and Latino students, on average, charter schools performed about as well as district schools. However, this year's study, which looked at 2015 to 19, found that charter students achieved better reading and math scores than students in traditional public schools. Yes. The results are described as remarkable by Mackie Raymond, the director of CREDO, and Mackie's here with us in Austin, maybe in the room, I hope. So be sure to check out her session on this research. Importantly, CREDO also debunked the frequent criticism of charters that we skim or cream the best students. The study showed that incoming charter student achievement data is typically not higher. They showed that charter school student achievement improved over time for all students. And the longer students stayed in a charter school, the better overall achievement is. But you all knew that. Now, I'm not a big Twitter guy, but I was looking the other day, lurking you might say, and saw that a former chancellor took a swipe at these findings, saying that this report reinforces divides, that we shouldn't be talking about it, that we should just focus on working together to make our babies free. Well, I have to disagree. Real freedom can only come about if our kids can read, if they can do math, if they have the tools to tackle, yes, if they have the tools to tackle computer science and literature and, yes, civics. And as we sit here today on Juneteenth, we should be clear-eyed about what freedom means for families in the communities that so many of us serve. Quite honestly, I don't care what school you send your kids to, but I want to know that Black and brown families and our brothers and sisters in rural communities have a quality choice available to them, and that they have the data at hand to know which schools are advancing their children's learning and which are not. Now, there's a lot to celebrate. Charter school enrollment grew during the pandemic, as Nina said, and now 3 years on, our numbers hold steady. Families who might have chosen charter schools because of the pandemic are sticking with us because of what we're able to offer students. But again, there's a lot of work to be done, especially on teacher recruitment and retention. Like all other schools, charter schools are struggling to hire and keep teachers. Fewer teachers are entering the profession, and those who do are staying for shorter periods of time. Tomorrow, the National Alliance will be releasing Harris Poll data from a national survey of teachers. Among the findings, nearly all public school teachers, 97%, say they wish people understood how demanding it is to be a teacher. And I would think all the teachers in this room would agree with that. Public school teachers, both district and charter, report initially being motivated to enter the profession because, surprise, they like helping children learn, and they feel they can positively impact students' lives. However, that level of motivation teachers feel diminishes over time. Interestingly, it diminishes less for charter teachers. In fact, it increases most of the time. 55% of charter school teachers say they are more motivated today than when they initially entered the profession. Only 15% of district teachers feel that way. I share that data tentatively because, as you all know, this is not a time to be complacent. Our country has real work, big work ahead to make sure we have a strong pipeline of teachers, making sustainable wages, and feeling valued. And charters are included in that. So I ask you all, what could we be doing better? How do charter schools build upon the successes we've seen in cultivating great teachers? Those are important questions, and our keynote speaker this morning will share his insights on what motivates teachers to stay in the classroom. A lifelong educator, Principal L from Wilmington, Delaware, there's Kendall, will tell us why he chose to stay. I'm eager to hear his insights. I'm excited about the conference this week, and I'm thankful, truly thankful, to be part of this community. Please join me in welcoming Principal L.